Hi class, this is Instructor Fran, and I just wanted to walk you through the basics of creating a reference page and the citations within that reference page. I know a lot of people get a lot of anxiety about this, and I can understand why, because there's a lot of new details usually to attend to. But I just really want to put your mind at ease as we walk through this. A lot of it's just following some directions of an example and also having a good resource to look at. A lot of you are probably going to be using the citation generator, and that's great. I think it's always a good idea to check what the generator gives you against another resource, so we'll talk about that as we go. Okay, so basically the first thing that a lot of people wonder is why do we have to put all of this information into a reference page? If you think of the in-text citations up in the paragraphs being a little abbreviation, the reference page contains the meat of the information for each source that you use. Why do we have all these details? Well, think back in the day when I was in college. I wasn't using the internet to do my research. And of course that makes things a lot easier now, but before you had the internet to do research, if you read someone's paper and wanted to track down a copy of that source to fact check it to make sure if it's right or to find out more about the topic, then it's a little more of an involved process. What you'd probably be doing is contacting the publisher and trying to order a copy of that book. Well, before the day and age of the internet, you probably had to call information. When you call information, you'd have to know the city and state. You'd have to know the name of the publisher. Then you'd have to know as many of the details as possible about that work. So think back to that day. That's why we include all these different pieces of information, is how I sort of think of it. Okay, next thing I kind of want to talk to you about is the basic look of a reference page. So the first thing that you're going to want to do for your reference page is, and because you're going to need to have at least 2 for this essay that we're going to write, you're going to write the word references, capitalize the letter R, okay, center it. So if you look up at this line, it's centered. It's not underlined, it's not bolded. It's using the same font that I used in the rest of my essay. Then what you're going to do is for the rest of the paper, it's going to be what's called a hanging indent. Okay, so you have to format your paragraph, and there's a lot of different ways to do that depending on what version of Word you're using. You might just be able to right-click on your mouse and go to paragraph and then format it. Okay, for me on this version, which is a little older, I have to go to Format Paragraph. Okay, but regardless, you should have some sort of box that opens up, and you're going to be looking for special spacing. And I had already selected hanging. Okay, so it'll usually pop up with nothing, but I selected hanging. And what a hanging indent does, it's kind of the reverse of a normal indent. You think of a normal paragraph, you indent the first line, but nothing else is indented in that paragraph. Hanging is opposite. The first line's not indented, but everything else is. So each source, in effect, has its own paragraph, if you will, that has a hanging indent. And we'll see what that looks like in a little bit. Okay, so use the same font style, use a hanging indent. Last thing about the basic look of the page is your sources should be alphabetized by the first letter of the source. Oop, we don't want to go there. So once I have more than one reference in here, I'm going to want to make sure whatever the first letter of my source is, which is typically the author's last name, but we'll talk about what happens if that's not the case. So you're usually going to alphabetize by the first letter of the author's last name. Okay, but regardless, it's the first letter of the source entry. Okay, so that being said, okay, I really want to emphasize, use your resources. Don't anticipate that you're going to memorize all of this. There's so many different types of sources. It's really unlikely that we're going to be able to memorize everyone. So what I do is I just make sure I have good resources on hand. Okay, I have printed out for this as I speak the chapter 22 of the Bedford Researcher is the current textbook. I have that chapter 22 printed out. Okay, so if you're in the version, if you're using the Bedford Researcher for your textbook in your class, then go to week 4, click on chapter 22, open it up, and there's a great index in the front of the chapter that gives you all of the different types, examples and explanations of all the different types of citations that you might have to do. Okay? If your class is now using the Everyday Writer Plus chapter, it's chapter 30. Again, it's going to be in week 4. Click on week 4. Go scroll down to the first required activity is chapter 30. Okay, when you open that up, you're going to find indexes towards the beginning of the chapter that have all of the different types of references that you might do. So use your resources. I'm right now not going to use either one of those because I'm going to go to the library. Like I said, I definitely tend to use the textbook myself a lot, but just want to show you, if we go to the Center for Writing Excellence, I probably could have done this faster, different way, but we're going to go to tutorials and guides, and if you scroll down, you're going to see that we have the reference and citation examples. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. One thing that I highly suggest you do is review the basic guidelines for formatting a reference page. Okay, some of it is stuff that I talked about, but some of it I'm not going to get to. There's a lot of little details about when you capitalize something, when you italicize something. Okay? Unlike normal paragraph writing, you're not using quotation marks or italics for article titles. So keep that in mind. Okay. But that being said, if you look up here, we can get to download a complete list of examples, or we can look at the ones that they have quick links to. And I'm going to go to, because a lot of us are going to be getting stuff online, we're going to take a look probably at that, and we're going to take a look at a periodical. Okay, a periodical is like a newspaper or a magazine, a journal of some sort. Okay, that's the first type we're going to look at, because a lot of us are going to be finding articles like that. So, so remember, use your resources, please. Okay. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind is, what type of source do you have? Do you have a print source or an online source? Most of the time in this class, people are using an online source. If you use an online source, you're supposed to use, at the very end of each entry, you're supposed to put either the DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier. Okay, that's a number that's assigned to specific content. If you can't find that, that's okay. Okay, sometimes a page will have that easily for you, but if you can't find that, you just put the website address, the URL, at the end of your entry. So just remember to do that. Okay, if it's an online source, include the web address at the end. Okay, so let's take, so when I was doing my research, I found a great quote that I wanted, and I copied all the information that I could about where I got that. Okay, so because I've done this a little bit, I kind of remembered some of the information I needed, but we'll go through that kind of step by step. Okay, the first thing that we're going to look at is an online journal article. So I'm going to go back to the CWE, and I'm going to click on periodicals because it's a journal article that we're going to look at here. I'm going to click on that. Okay, and you actually, it was already there. Okay, what it's going to do, I'm going to scroll down and look at the reference page citation. Okay, so for a journal or magazine article, typically what we're going to want to do is put the author's last name, comma, and then the first initials with periods after. If you have more than one author, then you're going to put the and sign symbol in between. Okay, so let's go back to mine and we'll start working on that. Okay, so the author's name is Nadim Khalak. Okay, so I'm going to do Khalak, comma, N as my first entry. Okay, and I'll be a little bit lazy here. I'll cut and paste. Okay, I'm going to want to make sure that I go back, and so remember, it's going to be author's last name, comma, first initial, period. Okay, and I'm just going to double check that as I look back here. Yep, so the last thing I have after the initials, it only had his first name, it didn't have his middle name, so I can't put that middle initial. That's okay. Sometimes I'll have it for you. Okay, the next thing is in parentheses, I'm putting the year of publication followed by a period. So hopefully I remembered to put that in my notes. Okay, year of publication, 2012. Notice I'm not putting December in there because it didn't ask for that, it just wanted the year. Okay, so I'm going to do 2012. We'll go back to a little bit of, okay, 2012, period. Okay. The next thing, let's go back to the example. Okay, now I have the article title. The article title, notice there is no, only the first, this is not what happens in a normal paragraph, but in the reference page citation, you only capitalize the first letter of the article name. Okay, nothing else here. And notice it's not italicized or in quotation marks. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my information. I'm going to get the article name, which is very long. Okay, I'm going to have some work to do in decapitalizing things. So let's go to my reference page. I'm going to copy that in, but I have to go back and decapitalize all of the different first letters. I probably should have picked a different one as an example, but as you can see, I mean, it takes a little work, okay? I'm almost there. Okay, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to put a period after that, but I need to double check. Okay, yep, a period. Okay, now I have the journal name. Notice the journal name is in italics. Sorry, so I have to get the journal name. So I'm kind of toggling back and forth here. Okay, notes on my paragraph. The journal name is Journal of Adolescent Health. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go back, which I should here. I'll save as references so we know which one this is in a second here. My computer is a little slow. Okay, so I'm going to save it. Just say save as read. That's okay, but we'll know which one it is. This way. And as soon as, and remember, the journal needs to be italicized. Okay, and you'll notice, unlike the article name, I do capitalize the first letter of each major word. Okay. Okay, now here's where it gets a little bit confusing. Like, what are these different little numbers for? Okay, so basically, what you're going to do is, if you have a volume and issue number, that's what these little parentheses are going to be for. Okay, so let's see. The volume number goes on the outside, and the issue number goes on the inside. So I'm going to see of the parentheses. So let's see if I can find that in my volume number and issue number. Volume number is 51, issue is 6. So volume goes first outside, issue number goes inside. Volume 51 and 6. Okay, 51 and 6. Okay, and there's a comma at the end of that. And look, I accidentally have these italicized. I'm going to de-italicize them. Okay, and I go back to my example. Oh, it does look like, I'm going to double check this, but it does look like the volume number's italicized where the issue's number not, but let's come back to that. And then I have the page, comma, and page numbers and period. Okay, so let's go, sorry about all this toggling. Okay, so I'm going to go back and, whoop, so you can see I actually did that wrong. 51, 6. Okay, and this was, okay, now I need to do comma and then the page numbers. So let's go back to the notes on it. Page number 615 to 622. So you can see this takes a little bit of work. 615 to 622 and then period. Now, where did I say that I got this? I said I got it online. So the last thing I'm going to need to put, which doesn't have it in the directions there, but the last thing I'm going to need to put is I'm going to need to put the web page address. So I'm going to find that in my notes, which I definitely remembered to put. Okay, I'm going to copy that in. Whoop. I really could be doing a better job on this. Sorry about that. Okay, but I guess this is real life. Okay, now, this for some reason, there's no hanging indent. So, and should still be double spaced. So I'm going to hanging indent double and go OK. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Author's last name, author's first initial period, year in parentheses period, daily, and then I have the article name with the period after, only the first letter capitalized, journal name in italics, regular capitalization rules, volume issue, in parentheses, comma, page number, web address. Okay, now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back and we're just going to look at the basic guidelines. And we're going to do a quick skim and see for volume and issue. And seeing if it says for the volume, whether it's italicized or not. Oh, for journals, include the volume number italicized. That was in my textbook I had next to me, so we did that right. Okay, so there's a lot of checking and little things to do. So don't be surprised if it takes a little bit of practice. It's just really following a pattern, following some rules. Okay, another type of thing that people are going to be using is we're going to be using websites. Okay, so just let's take a look. Remember, we're not doing in-text citations right now. We're doing reference page citations. So look down. A lot of times we're not going to have an author's name there. We're going to have a different way to do this. A different thing is coming first. Okay. In this case, we're having the name of the website, then the year, and then we have the name of the article or the web page itself. Okay. Notice it puts retrieved from. Okay, I should go back and put that back in my source there. Okay. So, so what I'd like you to do is just remember you're going to be following steps, different directions. Whoops, I didn't want that. And if you have questions, you can always ask me, but you can also a lot of times find your answers. Okay. See here, you're going to find different when you go through the examples. What if there's no author? Okay. What are you going to do? Well, it's going to tell you to put the article name first. Okay, and then you leave it out where you would have had it before. But like I said, the textbook I think is really great. This source, this CWE source of examples is really good too. If you want to have all of the examples by your side, you can click on the full list of examples. I'll load that up for you and you can take a look. Okay, and it has tons of different examples and you can use this instead of the textbook as well. Okay, and you can scroll down and it'll give you all the different things to follow for both in text and for reference page. Okay, so so hopefully that was helpful and didn't make anything more confusing. Thanks for following along, and definitely feel free to contact